This DVD is about people who have advanced cancer and how much even a short amount of extra life can mean to them. And it's about their struggle to access the latest treatments. In the United States and across Europe, such treatments are often routinely available and have prolonged life by weeks, months, and even years. However, in the UK, the situation can be very different. During the last 5 years, the National Institute for Clinical Excellence, known as NICE, has restricted funding for a number of new cancer treatments that could extend life. For some patients, such treatment can be their only hope.
I just think it's disgusting that patients at the most vulnerable times in their lives, like the Alzheimer patients and the cancer patients, are having to go through this process where they're begging for treatment.
NICE recommendations are based on Quality Adjusted Life Years, or QALYs, which compare the impact of a new treatment on a patient's quality of life to its cost. This approach is used for everything from minor conditions to a terminal illness. But does it truly calculate the value of extra life?
To be honest, it's shocking. It's shocking in the extreme that there are drugs there that can help keep people alive and you can't get them. I mean, it defies logic, it defies moral ethics, everything you can think of, that there are the drugs there and people cannot have them. I mean, extraordinary.
This DVD looks at the impact that funding decisions make on the lives of patients and their families. It also reveals how time is precious to terminally ill patients, precious in ways that healthy people may not appreciate. When you're fighting for your life, every moment counts.
The extra time that I've had with Pat will stay with me forever. Even just doing normal day-to-day, boring chores, things like that, you make the most of, because you know that at some point that's going to be taken away from you because it's not a cure.
He literally, all he said to us was, it's cancer and it's gone to the liver, and my world fell apart at that point.
He was actually given 50-50 on the operating theatre because it was major surgery and they didn't know what would happen to the cancer once they'd opened him up. So obviously that was very, very scary. Your world just completely falls apart, and you never ever forget those words, you've got cancer.
When I wake up in the morning and see her in her cot playing there, yeah, I think that's when it hits you. Yeah.
What we're trying to do is to give our children memories that they'll have forever. I mean, that's just, putting a value on it is just nonsensical.
I think if I can have an extra year of Jack and that time with him and his daughter primarily, really, then that you can't quantify that in terms of monetary value for the benefits that we'll have for my daughter.
And every time a day goes by and you're not getting it, somebody else is dying, or it's the cancer's eating away at you and getting worse. It should be a decision that doesn't have to be made.
I think time becomes extremely precious when you have a terminal illness, and I think that we must accept that, and the policymakers must accept that.
What patients expect from treatments and what they feel is beneficial to them is very variable from one person to another. And I think that it's not appropriate that organisations such as NICE make hard and fast rules about what they think is of benefit to a patient. I think that should be something that the doctor should have a discussion with the patient and make that decision on an individual level.
On paper, an extra 2 or 3 months improvement in life expectancy may not seem like much to people making these decisions, but actually to us as cancer physicians, that can often be of huge importance to our patients.
And we've got a couple of options at the moment. We can either self-fund it, which we can't afford to do. We're thinking about going to court and taking a PCT to court on Emma's behalf, our baby daughter, regarding her human rights being denied a father earlier than she perhaps needs to be denied him. And the other thing, we're looking to see if there's any clinical trials that may enable Jack to get the treatment he needs.
The Clever drug that Chris is on is due to run out in just a few months' time. I think it's only 4 months' time now. And obviously that means that we've got not much time now to get our case together, to put a case for exceptional case funding to the Primary Care Trust. Our understanding is that normally gets turned down. You then have to go to appeal. Again, that normally gets turned down, and then you have to go to judicial review into court. But we are under no illusions we will have to go the whole hog because he has to have this drug, whatever.
It's disgusting that patients at the most vulnerable times in their lives, like the Alzheimer patients and the cancer patients, are having to go through this process where they're begging for treatment at their most vulnerable. I think it's wrong and it shouldn't happen. And the NHS has got this massive drive at the moment of dignity and respect, but there is no dignity and respect in this procedure for the patients or their family, none at all.
As a clinician, it's incredibly frustrating because at all times what we want is the best for our patients, and we want to be able to give them the best treatment that can allow them to enjoy the best quality of life for as long as absolutely possible.
Well, this disparity in gaining funding from the primary care trusts creates great difficulties. I specialise in particular cancers, so I will have a waiting room of patients waiting to see me in the outpatient department, all with the same disease, and they will talk about their treatments with one another. And if one patient has been granted funding from their PCT and they're sitting next to another one who hasn't, that creates great difficulties for the patient, of course, but also when they come in and see me, they wonder why I can treat patient A but not treat patient B.
People are dying because a board says no, and people should be given the chance to be able to stay alive for as long as possible. And because of money and because of the way that the PCT has to operate, because of money, people are dying, and that's just wrong. That shouldn't happen.
We're learning now to live life for every day that comes and be grateful for every day we get. And we're putting off a lot less things that we'd have probably waited 3 or 4 years, 10 years, 12 years to do. And we're thinking, right, no, we're going to seize the day, we're going to do everything now. To the extent our weekends are now absolutely, completely chocker from sort of Friday afternoon through until Monday morning. We're always off doing things with the children, taking them places, playing with them, whereas normally we'd have probably stood, oh no, the garden needs doing, got to paint the house. All that pales into insignificance now.
And we plan nothing.
We plan nothing more than
Nothing's planned. It all just happens.
The extra time that I've had with Pat will stay with me forever. Even just doing normal day-to-day, boring chores, things like that, you make the most of, because you know that at some point that's going to be taken away from you because it's not a cure. Pat had a normal quality of life for those 15 months, for most of it. Obviously he did have his bad days, but for 85% of the time you wouldn't know Pat had cancer.
I know families who have moved a wedding forward. I know people who have wanted the drug so they can hold their first grandchild.
If new cancer treatments are not funded by the NHS, then really they're only going to be available to those that can afford to pay for them, which then sets up a two-tier system. You've got the patients that can afford to pay, who are generally the privately insured patients, because most of these drugs are very expensive, or the NHS patients.
The difficulties that patients are having in accessing these new treatments, particularly when the clinicians who are advising patients feel very strongly that they should be made available to them, means that legal actions to get access to these medicines are going to increase. And the problem with the way in which that works at the moment in the UK is that a patient will have to go through the whole legal process, through the appeal court, through the House of Lords, and will then eventually go to the European Court of Justice. And my own personal view, not being a lawyer, is that once you got to the European Court of Justice, if they see that these drugs are widely available for other people in Europe but not in the UK, I think the UK government will be in a very difficult position to be able to maintain their stance on not allowing access to these drugs.
The extra 15 months meant that I had my husband here for a while longer, and the memories that I've got from that are just great. Holidays in Spain, his 40th birthday, just sitting at home watching telly, watching football.